of Best Books of 2018. Is that correct, Elena Trucker?
Yes, yes it is.
Righty then. We always look forward to the summation and a chance for all of us who haven't read enough books to say, well, what ought I be reading if I was reading a book?
Well, we've got about 12 people working at Napa Bookman right now, and I thought it'd be really fun to put together a list of the things that we've read over the past year that we've really, really loved, which is really hard for booksellers to do. So I want everybody to give me and my staff some credit for that.
Yeah.
Because we read so much, so finding the best of the best is really difficult, but a lot of fun. So I've got some nonfiction, fiction, some kids stuff, and I was hoping that we could talk a bit about them over the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely. Before we start in, how many books do you read in a year?
Ooh. Depending on the book, I personally read 1 to 2 a week, but other members of our staff can read much quicker. I know Kelsey and Mariah both probably read at least double that, if not more.
Wow.
And then some of us read a little slower, like the moms on the staff. So, you know, it really depends on the month. It depends on the book. You know, some books are page-turning. You get through them really fast, and some need a little more digestion.
Yeah, and some you can't finish. Is it okay? Is it okay not to finish?
Yes, okay. Absolutely. As someone who is expected to read lots of books in her job, I am firmly a believer of if you don't like it, don't bother finishing it.
All right. That's very liberating. Okay. Let's get into the list. What's up top?
So I thought we'd talk about nonfiction first. Naomi's favorite book this year, she's one of the owners of the shop, is Educated by Tara Westover. And you might recognize his name because it's popping up on a lot of different best-of lists. It's a really fascinating memoir. Tara was 17 the first time she ever even set foot in a classroom. She was born to survivalists in the mountains of Idaho. She prepared for the end of the world by stockpiling home canned peaches and sleeping with her head for the hills bag. In the summer, she stewed herbs for her mother, who was a midwife and a healer, and in the winter, she salvaged in her father's junkyard. The family was so isolated from mainstream society that there was no one to ensure that the children received an education and no one to intervene when one of Tara's older brothers became violent. On the way out, Tara began to educate herself, learning enough mathematics and grammar to be admitted to Brigham Young University. And her quest for knowledge would transform her, taking her over oceans and across continents to Harvard and to Cambridge. And only then would she wonder if she traveled too far, if there was still a way home. With the acute insight that distinguishes really great writers, Tara has crafted a universal coming-of-age story that gets to the heart of what an education offers, the perspective to see one's life through new eyes and the will to change it. Really fascinating book.
It certainly sounds like it. That's some story. Keep rolling.
The next is my favorite book of the year, which is another nonfiction, which is pretty remarkable for me. I don't generally like nonfiction as much as fiction, but Rising by Elizabeth Rush just blew me out of the water. We had her for an event, and we might still have a couple signed copies. It's really stunning writing about a serious problem that isn't really being dealt with at all, which is rising sea levels due to climate change. And how this disproportionately affects the most vulnerable populations in the U.S., generally the poor and people of color. The science is described really clearly, so it's easy to understand, but it's a beautiful balance of reportage and personal journey. She visits several places around the U.S., including the South Bay, where they're working on wetlands restoration and how to deal with sea level rise at the same time. And she talks about how this sea level rise is affecting both the natural world, but mainly the communities of people living there, or who used to live there. So she goes to New York, where there's a town that was basically completely wiped out in Hurricane Sandy, I think, and talks to one person in particular about, the night that happened. Essentially, it was one night, and, her father perished in this hurricane, and what the community and the government has been doing to relocate these people. It's a really, really interesting topic, very timely. and really beautifully written. So it's Rising by Elizabeth Rush.
All right, very good. Nonfiction, that's, I have to say, I used to read nothing but fiction years ago, and then things changed. Now I'm a nonfiction person mostly.
Yeah.
What happened? What's next, Elena?
Next, we have a couple of novels. The first is Circe by Madeline Miller. This is a staff favorite all around. It's perfect for this moment where we need more strong female voices, even in fiction. Circe is the witch from Homer's The Odyssey, the one who turns men into pigs, so you might recognize her name from that.
Mm-hmm.
And here, classicist Miller takes that minor character and completely weaves her own history. And it's just really fabulous. The first third is a little slow. People have some trouble getting into it, and then all of a sudden you realize that you don't ever want to leave this character. We follow Circe through her youth, falling in love and being betrayed, then onto the island on which Odysseus eventually finds her, and beyond. And her voice is authentic, it's heartrending, it's beautifully written. The book to get totally lost in, lend out to all of your friends. We've had a lot of customers come back in and say how much they loved it. And then on a very different note, we have My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh. This is another favorite with a couple of our booksellers. Moshfegh has been popular with indies for a while, but her reach is really starting to grow beyond that. Her signature is writing really unlikable characters, but in such a compelling way that you can't stop reading it, even though you might be really creeped out by it. She has a way of revealing the deepest inner workings of our brains, the things that we don't even really want to admit to ourselves, and just cracking them wide open for all to see. This is about a girl who should be happy. She's living in the Upper East Side. Everything's paid for by her inheritance. She's a Columbia grad. She's pretty. She's thin. It's 2000 in New York. What could possibly be wrong? But she's got this, dark and vacuous hole in her heart, and she decides that she's going to try to heal herself by essentially drugging herself into hibernation for a full year. And so this is the story of what goes on during that year of hibernation. Definitely something for people who are into more dark fiction.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. Completely intrigued. All right. And the author's name again?
Author's name is Ottessa Moshfegh. This is her third book, I believe.
All right. Okay, so some excellent choices. We're covering some of the best books of 2018 with Elena Trucker from Napa Book Mine. And next we look into the cooking and wine category.
Yes, indeed, and I've got one of each. The Sommelier's Atlas of Taste is one of Eric's favorites. He is Naomi's husband and the co-owner of Napa Book Mine, but his day job is winemaker. This is a seminal addition to the wine canon, where noted experts Rajat, Parr, and MacKay share everything they've learned in their decades of tasting wine. The result is the most in-depth study of the world's greatest wine regions ever published. There are books that describe the geography of wine regions, and there are books that describe the way basic wines and grapes should taste, but there are really no books that describe the intricacies of the way wines from various subregions, soils, and appellations should taste. And now, for the first time ever, you can learn about the differences between wines from the 7 Grand Cru and 40 Premier Cru of Chablis, or the terroirs of Barolo, Champagne, and Bordeaux. Paying attention to styles, winemakers, soils, and the most cutting edge of trends, this book explains how to understand the wines of the world, not in the classical way, but in the modern way. Appellation by appellation, soil by soil, technique by technique, making it an essential reference and an instant classic. So if you have any serious wine lovers on your list, Eric strongly recommends this one.
Okay, that sounds delightful. Yeah. And on to your second book on cooking and wine?
Yeah, we've got a cookbook. It's a little different from the norm. It is called Bong, Appetit, Mastering the Art of Cooking with Weed. There's a growing demand for recipes that include marijuana that aren't just a vehicle for getting high. They should be delicious in and of themselves. We have several bakers on staff, and one of them says that this one is really fantastic. Every recipe is just delicious and a total winner. It's from the popular Munchies, I believe it's a magazine or a blog, and then also a Viceland TV series. It's described as the joy of cooking for a new generation interested in making serious, sophisticated food with weed. It breaks down the science of infusing, so oils, butters, milk, alcohol, and more, and offers recipes ranging from weed butter-basted chicken to weed chimichurri to weed brownie sundaes. Along the way, it hits on marijuana politics, dosage, and pairing strains and flavors. It has tips from a vast network of experts. Definitely an interesting cookbook, but comes highly recommended.
Very, very good. Bong Appetit. There's no area of life more than weed that lends itself to, puns, right?
Definitely.
All right. Favorite books of the year, on to the kids category.
So I have one for young adults and one for the younger kids. Our young adult pick is Emergency Contact by Mary H.K. Choi. This was our weekend bookseller Sophie's favorite book of the year. Choi is a debut author, and this is perfect for fans of Eleanor and Park and To All the Boys I've Loved Before, which I think was turned into like a super popular Netflix show, which is a good segue for me to say, hey, you don't have to be a teenager to read YA. I read YA. It's a lot of fun. This is a really cute book. The main character is Penny. She has graduated high school and is moving on to college. High school for her was basically a non-event. Her friends are okay. Her grades are fine. She somehow managed to find a boyfriend, but he doesn't really even know anything about her. So when she heads to college in Austin, Texas, to learn how to become a writer, it's 79 miles and a zillion light years away from everything she can't wait to leave behind. And then we have Sam, who's stuck. He works at a cafe and sleeps there, too, on a mattress on the floor of an empty storage room upstairs. He knows that this is a god-awful chapter of his life that will serve as inspiration for when he's a famous movie director. Right now, the $17 in his checking account and his dying laptop are really testing him. When they cross paths, it's less meet-cute and more a collision of unbearable awkwardness. Still, they swap numbers and stay in touch via text, and soon become digitally inseparable, sharing their deepest anxieties and secret dreams without the humiliating weirdness of having to see each other. Really, I think, indicative of what teenagers are dealing with romantically these days. It's a very sweet book. The book for younger kids is a beautiful picture book called Julian is a Mermaid by Jessica Love. This was Grandma Emily's favorite picture book of the year. It's absolutely stunningly gorgeous and has a wonderful message about being true to yourself. While riding the subway home from the pool with his abuela one day, Julian notices 3 women spectacularly dressed up. Their hair billows in brilliant hues, their dresses end in fishtails, and their joy fills a train car. When he gets home, daydreaming of the magic he's seen, all he can think about is dressing up just like the ladies in his own fabulous mermaid costume. A butter yellow curtain for his tail, the fronds of a potted fern for his headdress. But what will Abuela think about the mess he makes? And even more importantly, what will she think about how Julian sees himself? It's mesmerizing and full of heart. It's by an author-illustrator, which isn't super common. Most of the time it's written by someone and illustrated by someone different, but Jessica has done both. It's a jubilant picture of self-love and a radiant celebration of individuality. So hopefully that's a little bit to get you started on your holiday shopping list.
Yeah, very good. Best of Books, Part 1, and we'll have more coming your way next Friday at this time. Elena Trucker from Napa Book Mine, which is, of course, on Pearl Street and in the Oxbow Market. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.